Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Trigen webinar series. And moving on to the next slide.
Hi, this is Divakar. I'm glad to be a part of this webinar series. I have about 30 plus years of experience working with successful failed startups in executive leadership and management firms at management positions. I have, over the last close to 25 years, been a tester at heart. And one of the core things that I've always held dear to me is what I would call responsible testing, uh, keeping customer experience at the heart of what I do. I have with me Abhishek. Abhishek, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Divakar. Hi, my name is Abhishek. I lead the sales practice here at Trigent. And in a nutshell, I help several of our customers adopt strategic outsourcing. And I'm passionate about digital transformation. And over the last 15 odd years, I have helped numerous companies adopt to technology, different flavors of technologies. And that's about me. So welcome to the webinar. And there's some key takeaways from the webinar. I think we have 10 odd slides that we will go through as part of this webinar. I think the key takeaways are summarized here. We're looking at helping organizations implement digital transformation, and that does require a major cultural change. We are looking at helping organizations differentiate and succeed in their digital transformation efforts through quality and accelerate your digital transformation journey without compromising quality. So those are the three key takeaways. Okay, so so the digital transformation debate. Now, one of the things that as a sales professional, when I and I do this on a very regular basis when I'm as part of my role, as I'm constantly engaged and listening to our customers, big or small, I've come to realize that although the opportunity for digital transformation is clear, people and businesses are looking at transforming themselves. The real essence of transforming an established organization remains one of the largest challenges in businesses. This is because genuine transformation touches the entire organization. It not only includes product development, marketing and sales, but culture and business model as well. This level of change is a major undertaking for any company, irrespective of its size and what they do. Now, the situation caused by the pandemic has forced several companies or several businesses to adopt to short-term gains, but this should really be looked at as should be really viewed as a step or a leap towards digital transformation, offering more flexibility to customers and employees and potentially opening new revenue opportunities. COVID-19 forces biggest acceleration in digital transformation. However, where digital transformation is truly accelerating is where businesses have been suddenly exposed to the brutality of being digitally unprepared, and where post chaos within the IT departments, they now are taking this time to move strategically from keeping the lights on to building their digital infrastructure for the big bounce back. Many businesses have adopted to remote delivery models or virtual in-housing for continued delivery of software platforms and tech solutions, with companies like Trigent helping them to identify the right platform, data, and team requirements. So we'll take a break here, a quick poll.
So we give you around 30 to 45 seconds to highlight which or what digital transformation actually means to you in terms of using new technologies? Okay, so I think interesting change of slides. Interesting. All right, fastest finger first. Fastest finger. If you have not done it, just do so before we close the poll. All right, there we go. So here are what you can see what people think from a poll perspective. About 48% think that improving customer experience is the primary need for digital transformation. About 43% think it's all about business processes. And just about 10% think it's really about changing the culture. Abhishek, what do you think?
That's quite interesting. Let's go on to the next slide. I think.
So actually, oh, sorry, I think I need to hide that. All right. Sorry.
Okay, so getting onto the same page. At Trigent, when we talk about digital transformation, we essentially mean two things at the highest level. We are looking at transforming the core, which is taking what we do today, leverage technology to do it better, faster, cheaper, and more efficiently or effectively. Now, customer interactions and experiences is by far the most compelling reason for companies trying to transform either their business processes or their inherent culture. Okay, so couple of top drivers of digital transformation. Most of you are familiar with some of these points that we have up on the slide, but to just talk you through some of these points, because I think in my view, the changing customer behavior, consumer behavior is by far one of the most important drivers for digital transformation. And we see this coming back to us over and over again as we deal with new customers, onboard new customers, and so on and so forth. So truly being able to rapidly respond to the expectation of today's empowered customer clearly starts with a strong focus on customer insight. Today, the insight needs to be implemented at several levels: understanding your customer base overall, understanding the needs of individual segments, and increasingly understanding the need of each individual consumer so their experience can be highly personalized. Now, I'd like to leave you guys with quote unquote something that I picked up from a recent conversation with a customer of ours, and this customer is in the retail space. Now, one of the things that he told me, clearly stands out, and when you talk about consumer behavior, he says that, and I quote, highly engaged customers tend to buy 90% more frequently, spend 60% more on their purchases or per purchase, and have 3 times the annual value. So that is how valuable a customer is today. And you can't simply ignore the customer. Customer is king. You look at the second driver for digital transformation in terms of competition, and if you really look at the evolving markets around us in advanced markets like North America, you're always looking at trying to do better than your competitor. And there, I came across this word very recently, and it talks about digital predators. And these predators are essentially changing markets all around us and are truly leveraging the power of technology to drive customer expectations to newer heights, which essentially means that for a company that's dealing with legacy, digital transformation needs to be their topmost priority item, so as to avoid being a digital prey of sorts. So that's about competition. We look at operational efficiency, and this is not rocket science, because most of us are now inclined towards highly collaborative environments, either working from home or trying to meet customer expectations across different continents. So we look at advancements in tech and end customer demands, for and companies needing to adopt to evolving market requirements and conditions. The tech landscape today is buzzing with so many different things. You have people talking about artificial intelligence, you have machine learning, you have big data, you have Internet of Things and blockchain, and they're all looking at cloud as the medium to help them achieve greater customer experience and also lowering their operational expenses. So operational efficiency is also a very important driver for digital transformation. If you look at evolving opportunities in the market around us, one thing that's surprising is, as many of us on the call today or on the webinar today are probably stuck at home. We are trying to ensure that our customers, our expectations are met in these troubled times. But if you really look at the stocks of Amazon and Facebook, and when you look at it in the period in which of the pandemic, you would have noticed that the stocks have surged. And that's essentially because these companies have kept announcing new products, new features that allow for people or that allows people to use some of these new features during the lockdown, due to lack of options. So being nimble, agile, and keeping customers at the center of everything that they do, companies like Amazon and Facebook have thrived despite the global economy almost coming to a standstill. We look at regulatory frameworks, and all of us have heard of GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, that's been mandated by the European Union. We look at regulations that are set in by regulatory bodies governing banking and the financial sector and insurance sector in the US. We look at the Fundamental Review of the Trading Books, FRTB. So some of these regulations essentially require or are driving some of the largest enterprises to adopt to or quickly adopt to digital transformation. The cost of compliance has become a major issue, and firms continue to explore possibilities presented by RegTech or regulatory tech companies that encompass innovations such as artificial intelligence, cloud, analytics, RPA, and so on and so forth. And the use of shared services and industry utilizes to lighten the cost burden. So you look at some of these things as the primary drivers for digital transformation.
Hey, thanks, Abhishek. That was great. Interesting business perspective. I am a technologist or a technocrat at heart. I take my job is to support people like Abhishek in their endeavor to reach out to the businesses and obviously to make sure that the business promises that we make are held out. Before I dive into my section of the talk, I just want to get an idea from y'all as to what do y'all think is at the heart of digital transformation. I'm going to, again, we'll keep it short, we'll keep it quick. Fastest finger first. We try and distribute some awards, but hey, there goes the poll, right? So to respond helps us get an insight of what the people y'all are thinking. And, I don't want to make this is our only way to make this a two-way conversation. So that's interesting. All right, if you haven't responded as yet, here's your 2 seconds. 5 seconds more to respond. Okay. So we close the poll, share the result, and we see that about 50% or more believe that digital transformation is really about bringing in new technologies. About 30% in DevOps, and just about 16% believe that it's really about cultural change. Okay, so let's get into the heart of what is at the heart of digital transformation. My belief in both, when you talk about bringing in new technologies, when you talk about bringing in processes like DevOps, it really is about changing the culture that exists to make it a lot more collaborative. Imagine in this situation, the product owner coming in, talking to the dev wanting to translate those requirements into code, for example, the tester wanting to challenge those requirements, and the ops trying to figure out how to support those requirements. I mean, earlier we used to do it in phases, and working collaboratively gives you a much better insight right up front. In fact, a McKinsey study puts the chances of digital transformation being successful improving by a factor of 2x if the right collaborative culture is embedded within the organization upfront. So I go probably contrarian, probably the tester in me, probably the one challenging preconceived notions. Culture is where I would put a lot of my bets on. Which brings me to the agile and DevOps processes. I mean, agile and DevOps processes, or the old agile, the new DevOps, is again a highly collaborative culture built on the fact that you have to continuously develop, continuously integrate, continuously build, continuously test, continuously deploy, continuously release, and continuously monitor, and thus continuously improve, with obviously a high focus there on automation. So all this in terms of gaining speed as you progress in your in getting releases out to market faster. The jury is always out in terms of, is DevOps cheaper than what traditional processes were? The argument that I have is that given from where I work to where I've seen the DevOps processes evolve, the cost probably has not changed much. What has probably changed is getting your revenue cycles kicking in much faster, thanks to getting products out to market faster, or new experiences out to the customer faster. Again, supporting DevOps comes what I would like to call technology experimentation, as opposed to technology or tools adoption or automation. Experimentation primarily because there are lots of tools. There are a plethora of tools that are available out there in the market. The challenge always is how do you make sure that you have the right set of collaborative tools? How do you make sure that you have the right set of process automation tools? How do you make sure you have the right set of test automation tools that can help, and even monitoring and deployment tools that can allow you to gain the right set of insights? So you will need to pick, choose, experiment, and make sure that these tools can work and integrate with your existing legacy systems. Which then brings you to the point that what you need to support that is the right set of skills. Now, these skills can be technical. It could be domain-centric, because now you're changing business processes, and the ability to understand the impact of business processes in your landscape is best done by domain specialists. And as Abhishek mentioned, reg tech, right? I mean, regulatory tech requires people who understand regulations, who understand the impact of those regulations. And those set of skills can be either insourced, it could be outsourced, and organizations like Trigent are there to, to help augment those capabilities should the organizations require. And lastly, my belief having been a tester, having been a process person all throughout, what you can't measure, you don't know. right? I mean, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing it the right way? Is it giving me the right benefits? Is it giving my business the right benefits? Those are things that one would really want to look at. Let's look at some of these aspects from the Q factor. I call it the Q factor because DevOps by itself, as his loop probably says, has these various phases of plan, code, build, test, release, deploy, operate. And you keep doing that cyclically. You keep doing that at speed. You keep doing that to constantly generate your new set of new releases out to the market, right? That means if you and me having spent a lot of time in the testing field, in fact I spent a lot of time in support. I started my journey in support. I worked in dev. I kind of ended up in test, and I stayed there. And I discovered that a lot of the problems that are both upstream and downstream get highlighted by test. And that, to me, points to the fact that, you know, is if the entire focus is only on testing, then one is probably missing the real essence of the Q factor. So we transform the DevOps journey a little differently to say that at every stage of DevOps is really where one should be focused on what I would call the quality factor. At the plan stage, like I said, is all about the dev plus test plus ops collaborating, making sure that they have the right sense of what the business process is about or the change is about. What kind of an experience is one going to deliver? If one delivers that, how does one recover from it? What are the risks that are involved? Peter Bernstein, in a book, Against the Gods, had very, and this is a fairly old book. I read that when I was way back at the turn of the century, I think. And he highlighted the fact that that there are lots of complexities that have crept in, both due to the interplay of the tools as well as the systems that we interact with. And that's true even today. Sometimes we don't know the impact of what we do when we talk to outside systems, when we bring in code from outside. And there is always a question of risk that needs to be there, that needs to be asked, that needs to be questioned. And that, I think, is important when done right up front, gets you the best side kind of benefits. When you look at code, you can look at code coverage and analysis tools. You look at the ability to hunt problems in code much earlier. You talk about early testing. You talk about being able to test. And here I bring in the concepts of Brian Marrick's testing quadrants as well as Mike Kahn's testing pyramids. Now, these are concepts of testing that still hold true. Talking about testing that that focus on at the technology level as well as at the user level. That means technology level could be unit tests, performance tests. At the user business level, there are a lot about functional tests, exploratory and acceptance tests. The testing pyramids talk about how you can automate and where you should focus your automation efforts, which is largely at the unit level, lesser at the API level, and still lesser at the UI level. At the UI level, tests are probably the most expensive to build, probably the most expensive to maintain, and probably where you get the sense of, have I gone through, or have I, or the sense of whether you have gone wrong much later in the cycle. So early testing, obviously keeping in mind the testing pyramids, is highly advocated. Coming back to the build, again, the integration, that's what we do out there. A large amount of process automation to make sure that continuous integration kicks off the right set of processes, etc. And obviously my pet topic, the test, right? Again, I believe at test, the customer has to be at the heart of that test that you do. The customer experience focus, the ability to say whether you are delivering the right promises back to the customer at all of the customer touch points, that is important. How can we get to testing the non-functional? I mean, non-functional is the wrong word. I think ETs or your security, performance, accessibilities, all of those kind of testing. How can you get that done at much early stage by involving the right set of people much early? So you have concepts of DevSecOps also that kick in, where security is at the heart of a lot of what you do, right? And security is nothing but safeguarding or protecting your business and your infrastructure and your data to that extent. How can you deliver early test automation, right? Again, we talked about the test pyramid. We talked about using effective frameworks, and effective frameworks more from that allow for, a common way of handling multiple test types, integrating with multiple automation tools, being able to effectively leverage AI and ML to do impact analysis and defect classifications, etc. Again, these are technologies, these are new technologies that you will bring into play primarily to help you test better, get better at identifying what your test focus is. Again, at the end, automation tools that allow you to, and you were just talking to a customer a few hours back, and he was talking about the challenges that he had with, multi-browser, multi-device, multi-user experiences that needed to be constantly regressed, and how automation could potentially help him reduce his time out there. And lastly, obviously, effective reporting through actionable insights that you might want to put in place. Lastly, I think one of the key things that is highly undercooked in the entire testing domain is the effective test data management. How do you bring data that is useful, that is representative of the users that you have, that can be created on demand, data as a service, for example, and that can be easily deployed. Now, these are essential things that if you think of upfront, you can build that into your entire testing, or bake it into your entire DevOps cycle, so to speak. Release a lot about effective environment management, managing multiple environments, multiple different stakeholders, multiple different people wanting to use those systems out there, so that you can get quick and effective feedback. Containerization is one effective way of trying to deliver that at scale. Again, when it comes to deployment, how do you deploy in small doses, so to speak? Release it out to a limited set of people, get very quick feedback in terms of how that is effective for them before rolling that out to a wider variety. I remember my time in support used to be a lot about trying to figure out where an error had occurred, right? It was all about, and then you spend a laughable amount of time when you look at it now in terms of trying to debug situations and then be able to pinpoint error conditions, and then being able to resolve them. Things are a lot better with fail-fast mechanisms in place, automated recovery, and self-healing techniques that are now possible to do that. Lastly, with the monitor, I use a very generic term called AIOps. It really means the challenge really with monitoring is about the plethora, like I said, a plethora of tools, giving you a plethora of insights, giving you lots of data that you really need to churn and look at, and then being able to pick up those nuggets of information that can lead to potential actionable insights in terms of how you or where you need to potentially fix and where you need to potentially focus your energies. So that, in a sense, covers what I consider a small portion of what is essentially the Q factor that we bring into DevOps. Okay, now that we're there, one more poll for you, and this, I promise, is the last one, but interesting in terms of the biggest transformation challenge. Before so the way I would like to do this is, I told you about the Q factors. I want to try and address some of the challenges that we are constantly faced with, And would love to hear from you. What are your challenges that you have gone through in digital transformation that you think? And there goes, right? Eight% voted. Okay, let's go ahead. Come on, guys, folks. Sorry, oops. Interesting seeing the results. For those who are wondering, I can see the results here in live. 76% have voted. So anybody who hasn't, here's your chance before I close it. Okay, that goes up to 80%. Counting 1, counting 2, counting 3, and there we go. Okay, so here's what it says. 40% think it's lack of skills, and about an equal 30% think that it's a lot about the cost and the complexity of tools. And okay, so Yoda, whom we must always turn to should we ever be stuck, is that you need to address or understand your fears and challenges, right? To me, a lot is about change. I think the fact that change needs to happen, change needs to be sometimes people need to be changed, dragged in caveman style by their hair to the caves, etc. But it's always feared, right? That somebody is going to come and drag your hair and pull you out. But I'm sorry, but that's about what we need to be careful about. That changes is always a barrier, and thus comes the culture change that we're talking about, right? Secondly, automation really wasn't built in a day. A lot of y'all are right. Uh, the complexity of tools, and I would add not just the complexity. I would add the plethora of tools that are available in the entire marketplace. Those are also aspects that one needs to be careful about. Automation definitely is a challenge, and which is why one would go about trying to do it one process step at a time, one probably a set of processes that solve a particular problem, both from an operational efficiency perspective or from the ability to deliver perspective. The good thing about both the change and the automation, in my mind, is that sometimes your choice of tools drive a cultural change. I mean, for some time back, collaborative tools were highly complicated. You know, the way you communicated a story to the way you tracked the entire story was very difficult and very time consuming. Tools like Jira solve that in an instant. I mean, it's you set up Jira, you use it, you configure it well, and voila, you have a good collaboration mechanism at hand, which if rolled out in the right way with the right education and the right set of practices, can effectively take a huge cultural change problem off your back. The cost of DevOps, we talked about that. It is a challenge. It is there are those hidden subscription-led costs also that one needs to be aware of. Again, comes back to the choice of tools, making sure that you don't over-engineer tools. In fact, a friend of mine, Peter Thomas, who's the creator of the tool Karate, recently talked about the wrong reasons why people adopt tools. And a lot of times it's about, hey, I've done this in my past project, and hence I think I'm comfortable with it. It is because someone told me that it's a good tool to use, without really looking at whether it is apt for the situation, which drives up hidden costs of complexities and other workarounds. Uh, uh, Obviously, that also comes back to the cost of DevOps being the cost of skills that one needs to look at, and the right set of capabilities that one needs to have in place, which is where organizations like Trigent, working seamlessly with customers in the US, can help drive down some of that cost. Related to the cost of DevOps is the multitude of infrastructure that needs to be managed and maintained, and the data challenges that one has. Lastly, I think which is very under looked at and not so highly focused on, although now you would see tools like New Relic, for example. You would see AIOps tools that are trying to do a lot of correlation in terms of giving you the right set of metrics. Okay, before we come to the last part of this and to tie up the whole thing, questions are open. You can pose your questions out here. We will take a look at them, and we set aside some time at the end to go through that. So let's look at some of the metrics that really matter, right? I mean, at one level, there are what I would call the operational level metrics that kick in. Things like that help you understand and evaluate your process. It's about deployment frequencies. How often are you releasing? And are you making sure that the right release is getting through? That can also be correlated, right? How much of change is actually happening, or how much of churn is actually happening within your systems? What is the lead time to take a change from the time it's developed to its production release? Now you're in a hurry to get there. How many such failed deployments have you actually gone through? What about mean time to repair? That means a problem occurs. How fast can you fix it? I think organizations have realized that it's really not about being able to perfectly test or completely test all aspects. It's about managing risks. And one of the aspects of managing risks is about from trying to get the perfect product out to, can I get the right product out that makes sure it doesn't fail, and when it fails, can I make sure that I get the fixes in a rapid time, right? So mean time to repair becomes high in organizations that want to get to market faster, are not afraid to take those risks, which the brand of startups that exist, and are okay to put good support infrastructure in place to do that, which then will also be driven by higher customer volumes or change in user volumes. That means how many users, what is your churn that's actually happening in your user base, right? Lastly, things like availability, performance, and the most important, in my opinion, your net promoter score, which gives you an idea of what your customer experience is really looking like. Now, how do you take this back and trace it back to things that matter at an organization level, right? You can put terms like velocity, quality, performance, productivity, and those can be linked to some of these parameters that you actually track out there. So in a way, what deployment frequency will tell you is that you're not fast enough. What deployment frequency combined with change volumes, combined with field deployments and MTTR can tell you is about your quality or the customer experience that you have, and so on, right? And lastly, how do you link this back to your business outcomes? Your business wants to get to market faster. They want to deliver better customer experience. They want to make sure that your customers are staying with you and giving you higher levels of revenue, your customer stickiness factor, and that you're doing it with a lot of efficiency and effectiveness. So in essence, your operational data gives you organizational data, which then gives you business level data that you can link it back to. And this whole cycle, or this whole trace back and loop back, is what you might want to put in place to make sure that you are putting the right or focusing on the right factors that can really drive your customer or that your digital transformation. Sorry. All right. So I thank you for listening in. And in summary, just want to summarize that, uh, three things. The fact that at heart of digital transformation are aspects around culture, DevOps processes, technology experimentation, skills, etc., which then goes back to DevOps processes that talk about how you can build the Q factor at every stage of your DevOps process, and you can put in place mechanisms to actually measure all of that through through a very defined metrics or measurement program. Nothing to be too scared about, and would be happy to take any questions that you have from now. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Somebody said that I had lost my voice and was not able to hear me. Okay. Feel free to send in your questions. Would be happy to take them. If you think that we can hear you fine. Okay, thank you. Okay, there is, how do I get the questions down a little so that we can see them a little better? Okay. So automation involves a lot of costs. How do companies decide how much automation will actually work for them, and what would be the per cost benefit analysis? Interesting. I think there is always what I would call over automation. There is there are extremes in my mind. My belief with automation, and with no offense to anyone, and I heard this a long time back, and I take it very seriously and at heart. A fool with a tool is still a fool. And technically, if you are using automation for the sake of using a tool, I think you would have challenges with it. It is expensive, yes. It requires rigor to get done. It requires a change in people's attitude to use that, and it requires to show benefits. Because if it can't show benefits, then obviously it's not something that will be there. So how much is good? It depends upon what you want to automate. Is it at a process level? Is it at a test level? Is it automating to get insights, automating to get better at measuring how good you're doing? And all of those are different aspects of automation that you can put in. So each of them has their own challenges. Each of them has their own costs. One needs to look at what are the key reasons for it, and then dive into that. Okay.
I think, Diwakar, we have one more question. We probably have time for one more question.
Sure.
I can read it out. So it says, how do organizations transition from Agile to DevOps?
Agile to DevOps. Okay. If you are Agile, you are as close to DevOps as you can be. I think the concepts are very similar. DevOps places a lot of value in terms of making sure you're collaborating end to end. That means you're looking at not just the people who who are responsible for the product, people who develop the product, people who test the product, people who secure your infrastructure, people who manage your infrastructure, and people who support your product once it goes live. So all of these are your collaborators. I think from a thinking perspective, both are synonymous in my mind. The key difference being that once you start collaborating and once you start looking at all of the information across the entire stack, you are then driven to gain insights as to, so you're not developing as a person who's just making a code change. You're looking at what the impact of that code change can possibly be. You're looking at how you can shorten the life cycle of these processes, how you can take single atomic actions and move them into production at a rapid pace. Agile, unfortunately, got caught into this whole Scrum thingy, an extreme programming thingy. It never managed to escape a 2 or 4 week since okay, Agile probably came from was and had the baggage of waterfall that it needed to deal with. DevOps had a lesser baggage it needed to deal with from Agile. So I think that's why DevOps is probably a faster Agile, so to speak. And that's my personal belief. I don't think one should look at it as two separate processes.
Thanks, Ivaka.
All right. If you do have any more questions, feel free to reach us. My email ID is Divakar, that is first name _m @trigen.com. Abhishek is Abhishek_b @trigen.com. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks a lot for listening in. Wish you all a great day ahead. Stay safe and good luck.
Bye. Thank you.